And welcome to this video, which will be the last for the series on CISSP Domain 2, the asset security. And what we're going to see here today is the culmination of formulating a framework, applying data security controls, applying data protection mechanism to make sure that your data in all the three states of data either being used, in transit, or at rest is protected. And we'll see different forms and shape of how far the protection is applied. So first and foremost, any data protection mechanism that is used in any given state is to protect it from either disclosure, alteration, or destruction. In short, bad. Now, one of the mechanisms that you can initiate the data protection or either make it easy for your implementation is to start with data labeling, marking what that data actually means and what importance that data carries to you or to your organization. Based on the labeling, data handling mechanisms are derived, and also based on how you want to handle labeled data, a different storage mechanism is used. For example, you can imagine a short transaction which has a very short-lived memory requirement may not want to be stored forever. However, your loan application or your approved loan is a data that has to stay with your mortgage lender maybe for 30 to 40 years, depending upon how long what's the duration of your mortgage. Mechanism to apply the data protection is to use digital rights management. And what it does is basically help you protect your data from getting leaked and reaches place where it's not supposed to be, help you track that data from how it has gone outside the bounds of your organization to the outside world. That's why you can do tracking by applying watermarking or the metadata embedded in the file. This is important aspect and it's a fallback mechanism, so to say, because no matter what kind of data protection mechanism, the best in class that you use, data will in one form or the shape will reach and go out of the bounds of your organization. So therefore, DRM helps you protect already to make a fallback plan for that and see if your data lands outside of your organization, that where it's landed, and then you can take appropriate action, be it invoking a liability, filing a complaint, or discarding or remotely wiping off the data. Measures like that. Another important aspect that how you can make your data protect is by taking the meaning out of that data. So for instance, you can declassify your data. So if a data which used to be of high importance has lost value, for example, a customer who is no longer a customer, you can remove that data based on the retention period or degrade the classification of that data after a certain period of time. You can de-identify the data by taking the meaningful attributes out of it, and you can tokenize it, for example, embedding it with junk or useless useless data attributes in between, which makes the data garbage. So that is also a way to protect your data. Another important aspect of data protection that it is not just about protecting the data which is in use or which is at rest, but it is also, as in case of mortgage application, that your data must be retained even after, for instance, your association with a given organization is over. And that is where the data retention comes into picture. You can also imagine in case of medical health records, that retention is of paramount importance. Be also in case of medicine discovery, the historical data of clinical testing is also very important to be retained. So data retention is a generic term that is used across organization. However, how long that you have to retain data is very industry specific and also bounded by the local laws of the country in which your organization uh, is operating from. One of the best ways of having a long-term retention is to write the data into something called as WORM, write once and read many, which means the capability to alter with the retained data goes to nil, and you can still access your data to your capability and also to your usability requirement. It is important to understand based on industry specific need, what are the good retention practices that you have. You can imagine that if you retain your data on a hardware which is bound to have a sectors are bound to corrupt your data may not end up being a good retention policy. So you will have to see the retention in a totality from beginning to the end, also to where it is stored and how do you retrieve your data should you need it to be retrieved. Long-term data retention also comes with a cost. It's not free of charge, and it can also be used in matter of litigation. Can your organization, if it required, can also be subpoenaed by regulators to provide reference to that retained data. Now, data, as I said, doesn't just need to be protected while it is in use or it is read, it also need to be destroyed appropriately. You can imagine uh, having a secret on a piece of paper. If that is lying around in your office, that doesn't remain a secret anymore. That's why it is important that any media storage where the data is stored, and if the data has lived its life, the destruction also goes in totality to make sure the data cannot be retrieved from that medium. There are various ways of doing it. For example, paper disposal in case of tangible data storage. You can also have a digital disposal in case of using digital media like storage drives, hard disk, static disk, etc. And you can do the digital disposal in many different ways. You can delete a file, you can format the file or the attribute or the sector in which it is stored. You can overwrite the file as in the tokenization example. You can sanitize the media by cleaning it up, or you can purge the whole memory by overwriting it with the new data. One of the most important aspects of doing digital media data destruction is degaussing, is to passing through a magnetic channel stream, which tend to disturb the data or the bits and byte configuration, which represents your actual data configuration, and therefore your data tend to lose meaning passing through it. The most ultimate one is the full destruction, which is of literally taking the storage unit and burning it to the ashes. However, you have to be very careful while doing it because there may be environmental aspect that will come into picture. For example, toxic fume, poisonous gases that may emanate from burning the storage media. So you have to do this carefully and in a well-controlled environment. Important to note that different methods are used for different storage units. So for instance, passing a piece of paper through a magnetic field will not render the data unreadable. Data, oh, beside being used on a physical media like paper, also is in the digital media as we have seen. And the place where the data is stored is the memory, and that is where it keep the remnants of that data. There are different kind of memory. There are short-term memory, long-term memory. There are permanent memories. What we have seen in terms of WORM, write once and read many kind of attribute. And all of this memory serve different purposes for different data because of the different data storage requirement that they may carry with each other. So it is also important to make sure that the data, once deleted, is also gone permanently out of the memory. Otherwise, it can be retrieved out of the memory, and then your data destruction mechanism, though may look good on the paper, in practicality may not yield the same result that you are expecting. Data is also stored in many other places beside, for example, program data is stored in BIOS, which is the boot sector that your operating system looks into. So you can imagine if the memory is tampered there, it can lead to devastating effect. It can lead to data breach. It can lead to hacking of your systems and so many other kind of problems that may arise. Last but not the least, I would want you to think about what we have gone in this domain. It is important to capture the gist at the end of it. So do consider the data framework, data security controls that is applied, what are the local laws and regulation, how do you retain data, and what are the data destruction mechanisms that you want to apply on a given set of data, make it completely unusable based on what is actually been asked in a regulation or what is the need of your organization. So this is a bit of a long video, more than 10 minutes, but I hope you have enjoyed this. Thanks for listening, and next time we will see each other in domain 3 of CISSP. Until then, thank you very much. Enjoy.